that's in there. And then this is what I wanted to, because this essay, I still think is one of the best essays I've ever read in any context. And I think we should all review it again. And I know Todd's face is in the middle of it right now, but Greg Thomas's Why Some Like the New Jim Crow So Much. It's on iMixWhatILike.org.
I taught that essay
Please,
for 5 years. Yeah.
please,
I taught that essay
everybody,
for
we
5
need to
years.
revisit. Because what Greg does in that essay, in the context of the new Jim Crow book, says what I'm trying to say about this series in a much better way. You all wiped out the Black radical history. You've acted like he reminds you act like there was no prison movement until y'all showed up. Like you act like George Jackson didn't exist. You act like so this series was wild. But again, I wasn't even this animated until I saw that one. So then they say the Dream Defenders, and they said again that it should be seen as a confession, not that these are bad people, but a confession of the politics of the series. The Dream Defenders said they got their name from Dr. King's dream. But again, Dr. King, in his own lifetime, out of his own mouth, said his dream had become a nightmare in the face of what he became clear on were the capitalist, militarist, white supremacist politics of this country. So to name yourself the Dream Defenders and then be told you're defending King's dream when King himself had abandoned a dream in favor of clear, radical, militant politics is really frustrating. Then they made a reference to, and I don't know if you even remember this, the Students Against Mass Incarceration effort that started at Howard University in the mid-2000s.
I forgot about them.
And I went to look it up, and when I went to look it up, reference even to me and us, or our related work is in there, because we were around helping I was around helping the organizers and the founders of SAMI build SAMI when it's mentioned in some of the news reports that they brought it to Morgan State University. You know, that's what, but they don't get into what happened with SAMI. They don't get into, you know, what happened to Students Against Mass Incarceration, what happened to any of that. Then they just bring us back to John Lewis again. Performance in politics.
Because Eisner Prize is about the reconstruction and maintenance of American democracy. That's from Henry Hampton up to the present.
So they bring us back to Mike Brown and the launch, because it has to conclude the series with this sort of the rise of Black Lives Matter, which I think is getting a good rebrand here, because all of the subsequent stuff about what happened to the money, what's happened with the funky leadership, why was there a BLM 10? Why was there a Black Lives Matter 10 that had to break away initially from Black Lives Matter Yeah, remember, a woman-led effort, a grassroots woman-led effort.
Oh no.
The Black Lives Matter 10 breaking away, saying because you sisters are over here giving your fraudulent contracts and giving money to your brothers and cousins for security and having mansions and sipping cocktails. You see that brief look at Melina Abdullah. You get a brief look at her.
Right.
But no, and it's like, well, what happened to all of that? So a couple things that I noticed. So then, you know what else gets ignored? I thought this was interesting, and especially given what you said today, maybe this is some clarity. There's no mention of Freddie Gray and the Baltimore uprising in this.
Who?
Freddie Gray and the Baltimore uprising. Exactly. And then I was like, why wouldn't they mention that? And one of the reasons why I thought this might not get mentioned, because from what I saw from the vantage point, working at the Real News and you know, being in Baltimore at the time, was that Black Lives Matter was getting called to account by a lot of local organizers, including by leaders of A Beautiful Struggle, for saying, like, you know, all you Sharptons and Jamal Bryants come flying in here, but people been doing the work and don't get any of the so there's no leaders of Beautiful Struggle mentioned in this. There's no as I said, mention of any other grassroots organizational effort disassociated from. So I said, this is a very narrow look at the last 25 years, people crying over meeting. Somebody's on camera talking about how she cried when they got to meet Obama. And she says on camera, "From the streets to the White House." And I was like, this is. And then they end with Kwame Ture, but no discussion of his actual politics. And then my last statement that I wrote here on this is, this series promises to be a reflection and to be giving a voice and space for these efforts and ideas, but this is also a suppression and an erasure and a denial of unsanctioned other forms of radical grassroots organizations that have not been connected to these nonprofit structures. And I think this is, yeah, it's a negation of, it's a negation.
And again, the reason we have to be critical of this is that normally the people who would engage in critical analysis over this kind of content are part of it. So we can't depend on them. just like all the people that Manning Marable gave grants to, so they got quiet when the book came out. It's the same thing.
And then Keontae says, did they bring up Flint? And this is a good question. I'm glad you asked this question because I did forget to bring this up. They do. Very quickly during the episode, was that 5 where they're talking about the environment? They or is it 4? They do, yeah, in 4 where they talk about PCBs and the environment. They mention in passing, literally in one quick reference to Flint. What they don't do is remind, and the reason obviously they don't do that is because then you would have to confront head on Obama's complicity in that and his phony performance of drinking that water to shut the activists up. And so it is quickly mentioned, but not as a sustained focus. And you would think it should be that it in fact that could have been or should have been sort of a signature story to demonstrate the failures of a misleadership class.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.